Oh! Alright, well you guys asked for it. You want to know how to make future bass in Ableton? Or future pop? Now, this is one of my favorites so far. So, I'm giving away these project files to you guys. Links in the description below. Let me know what you think of the song. It's my favorite. Do you like it? Leave it in the comments. With that said, let's stop wasting your time and dive straight into it. I'm going to show you through each section of this song, bit by bit. I'm not going to show you all of it. I'm only going to show you the cool parts. The parts that will really help your music production. And let's do it, yeah? So first up, I came up with this chord progression just on a simple piano preset. This chord progression plays the whole song pretty much exactly the same as that. So once I had that, I came up with this. Well, I didn't come up with it. I found this preset, which is a synplant preset. This is what it sounds like without any processing. You can hear it sounds pretty stagnant. So what I did, I added this processing here, an auto filter and a frequency shifter. And I automated the fine control on the frequency, which, have a listen to this. Right here, you hear it go. Kind of like a little tape stop. And then on the frequency control on the auto filter, I just opened up the filter over time. And this is a great technique to transition between the intro and the verse, using a filter to emphasize that transition. So once I had the basic chords down, I started layering those chords and emphasizing those chords with backing sounds and effects. That's just an arpeggiator that's playing, bouncing from left to right with a little bit of distortion to help cut it through the mix a little bit more. Then, this is pretty cool. I wanted to add some foley, and foley is just background noise, really. And you can get really creative with foley and make it unique, and it will really help your song yours. So what I did is I found this sample. It's just some wind chimes. I chucked it in a granulator, and then I automated the filter position, the position, and all that does is it makes it so it doesn't repeat the same sample section over and over. It's constantly changing. You can hear how much of a difference that makes. And then up in the drums, up the top here, I just added some really simple drum samples like a reverse crash and some extra shaker loops and things like that. Let's listen to the intro from the start. Okay, now for the verse, I just kept that same synplant instrument playing all the way through. The only thing I did was I changed up some of this frequency modulation just to help emphasize the changes even more than earlier. And what I also did was I layered it with another super saw synth, just two saws like this, and I added the same filter automation on the same transition points, just to help transition once again and emphasize that even more. So on top of that, same thing, I have the ARP playing, I have all the same effects playing, I have the same drum samples playing, just with a few extra little pops and clicks. That's it, a few little extra things that just help fill it out, keep some interest. And then the cool part is the vocals. So this is where the vocals come in. Because it's a verse, I wanted some hooky part. And something that's hooky is like when you use a question and answer response. Now these vocals, they're just splice vocals. And you can see this empty space in here. That's where I wanted to add the answer. And this first part here, this is the question.
I've been out of my mind, I've been out of my mind for you.
You can hear that they kind of bounce off each other. If I take the out,
I've been out of my mind, I've been out of my mind for you.
there's just nothing there. But with it, it's like makes the listener sing to it almost. Now with this, I've just got a main vocal here with some slight EQ and some reverb and delay. But what I also do with my vocals is I have an effects track. And this is it here. And what I do is I add some effects, like some delays, some reverbs, whatever you want to. But after the chain, I add a side chain, and I side chain it to my main vocal. And what this does is it lowers the volume of these effects when the main vocal plays, so the main vocal can stand out clearer. Then when the main vocal stops, your effects pick up volume and fill in that empty space after it. Really cool technique. I recommend you check this out. So let's listen to this whole verse by itself.
And I've been out of my mind, I've been out of my mind for you. And I don't have enough time, I don't have enough time, it's true.
Alright, so for the drop or the chorus, it's playing the exact same chords. Chords going down, same chords going back up. I've just left some empty space in here just to help with the rhythm. And there's 5 layers. There's a lead, 2 top layers, and 2 bass layers. So let's listen to these individually. Alright, so this top layer here has some OTT on it just to help it cut through the mix. This is Xfizz free OTT. I highly recommend you check it out. The one underneath it here is basically the same super saw, just with no OTT, so it sounds a little bit lower. Less crispy and sharp. Now this one here, the high bass, this is a pretty cool trick that I recommend you do. This is just playing the lowest notes of that chord progression. And all it is a simple sawtooth, 2 voices. You can actually just use 1 voice, but I just experimented. And I've added some width to it. And what that does is it makes it feel a lot wider in the bottom end of your mix. So if I play this whole group here with this group. Now take this out. Just missing that down the bottom there. Doesn't feel the same without it. So it's a really cool trick. I highly recommend you try this one. And then on top of every one of these layers, I did this on every one of these layers, I added a frequency shifter that opens up over time where I have some bigger transitions in the drums, which I'll show you in a second. So all that is just done with this auto filter, and I just did that on every one of my layers, and I did that in key moments of the song. Also, you can see some empty space here. Now this empty space is really good for adding rhythm to your music, and you can emphasize this empty space with the drums, which I'll show you in a second. Now at the end here of the whole chorus, you can hear that wobble. What. All I did with that was I set a LFO up to this LFO shape, and then I modulated the on-off switch just so it turns on at that moment. Otherwise it would just be playing through the whole chorus, and I didn't want that. So let's come up to the drums, and you can see where those, you can see all this stuff here. So a great way to emphasize those spots is by adding some big explosive elements like an explosion. or some tom rolls, or some reverse kicks. If you layer that all together, so you can feel that rhythm bounce in between those chords when it leaves that empty space. Then in the background, all I did was I layered all of these layers here. That just helps fill out the background and add to that bounce of it, you know? And then a really cool little snare loop here. I just randomly put these in and just like staggered them across. No position, just completely random. And I don't even think there's even some effects on this drop. It is, oh yeah, there's a few vocals on here, which this is really cool as well. So at the start of this whole song, it sounds good. And then the second half, I didn't just want to repeat it, so I added this chant to it. Okay, so now verse number 2 is just exactly the same as verse number 1, except I just continued a minimalized version or a simplified version of the drums from the drop. All the other thing I changed up was the bass here. I added a little bit of rhythm to it just to help move it forward and keep some change in there. And I also changed up these vocals.
And I've been out of my mind, I've been out of my mind for you.
Now this vocal is, once again, the same singer from Splice. I think she must have made these vocals for one song, I'm not sure. I did the same effects thing here on the vocal, and I added some effects back in, just some swooshes and stuff like that. I took out all of the granulated stuff, and I also left in this ARP here. That's it, and I ran that all the way through until the vocals change up here again.
Oh, if I fall with you tonight, swear that you won't take my line.
And I also stopped the bass just before the next chorus because I wanted to create tension. And in that gap, I added that same build backing super saw as the first build. But unlike the first build, I also added some drums, some build drums here. And all this is a kick, a snare, and a little tambourine, all layered together. And the snare, and they all have some automation. So there's some frequency automation on this. You can see the pitch coming up, the frequency coming up here, the pitch coming up here, and I think the kick has no automation, okay. And down in the effects, I also have some extra little risers here that really help transition in between parts of the song. So let's listen to this. And then we have a build here. I made that build stop early, stop before the drop, because just like up in here, we have the vocal stop before the drop, we have this stop before the drop, and we have this modulate down before the drop. So let's listen to this all together. So now for the second chorus, it is basically close to the first chorus, just with some minor differences. So as you can see, I've taken the lead out and I replaced the lead with a vocal, and the vocal is just this pre-drop vocal. Exactly the same vocal, and that just changes up the two drops. So the first drop's got a lead, second drop has a vocal, just keeps the listener interested. I also did some minor changes in these chords. So as you can see, This chord here, I have a break in the middle, but this one I don't. I've done that in a few spots through this drop here. And I also, if we listen to this, you can hear how the start doesn't have any automation on it, where on this one, it does. So I did that on this second drop just to also help change it up a little bit. The drums and everything else are exactly the same. So let's listen to this. Alright, so for the outro, I wanted to change this up a little bit, so I decided to go like this hip-hoppy beat. That's what I was feeling at the day, and that's what I did. And you know what? This is actually probably my favourite part of the whole song. And this is what the beat sounds like. Now, there's two things that you can do to your music that makes your beat sound really boppy and hip-hoppy. Tip number one is by adding open hi-hats just before the snares. So listen for this hi-hat here. It's on the upbeat, yeah? If I take that out, completely loses the boppiness to it. And the second tip is by adding 2 extra snares in between your normal 2 snares. So this is without them. Completely loses that bop now with them. Awesome. So got a solid drum loop down there. Then I wanted to add an 808 to it. On the 808, I have some EQ, like beefing up the low end here. I've got some saturation, some glue compressor with a soft clip activated and pumping up the makeup a little bit. I have some compression, and that is it on that. But I also layered this with the vocal. Sounded cool, but I still needed something in the background. So what I did was I found this sample here, and I deleted that, and I reversed this. And then I just got sections like this, copied it, pasted it, joined them up like that, and then duplicated that, reversed it, and just completely did random stuff until I came up with this. That's it, but layered that with everything else.
Swear that you won't take my life. Swear that you won't take my life. If I fall with you tonight.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing. If you have a question, leave it in the comments below. Or if you want a whole bunch of free stuff, you can visit my website at offthebeat.com.